I mean, you can't tell me you're looking at this and not thinking, shut up and give me the build.
Meteor is actually good now!
Hello, my fellow sorcerers, and welcome to a surprise treat for us in Season 7. You know, Meteor, the giant flaming ball of death called down from the sky, one of the coolest looking skills in the game, one of the most fun to use, and it's always been kind of pathetic, and then it got its own dedicated unique, and it was kind of pathetic, and it was also the helmet slot, so you can't use some of the most powerful mythic uniques in the game if you want to actually play it. Yeah, that Meteor. Well, now it's actually meaty. I'm so sorry. So, I am so excited about this, and it is one of the most requested builds I get every season. And nearly every season I have done a Meteor build, and it's always been just kind of fine, right? Whereas now, it actually does damage. You'll see multiple consistent multi-billion hits at the rate that it's happening, which is fast. It's like Meteor machine gun, which is just glorious. Now, I do have to put a disclaimer here. This is not our best build of the season, of course not. That still goes to Lightning Spear, Splintering Energy, in everything other than pit pushing, where once again, it's of course cheesy, shatter, burning fishing. But that said, this is still up there, and I mean, it destroys Torment 4. And if that's all you care about, if you don't care about pit pushing, and you like Meteor, you like the look of this, how it feels to play, and let me tell you, it's phenomenal, then go for it. We have the armory system now, and it is the time to try the variety of builds that we actually have. It's the one big strength of Sorcerer this season. We have so many very different, almost as strong as each other top builds that farm the pit quickly on low tiers for your glyphs, that destroy infernal hordes, your headhunts, that go fast through any given content, delete nightmare dungeons in 30 seconds, you know, and this is one of them. And as a kind of general ranking in Torment 4 general farming, it's about our 3rd, 4th best build. In pit pushing, it's probably also our 3rd, 4th best build, and then it's particularly good at farming things like tormented bosses for your mythic uniques and such. We work it with double teleport. It's screen-wide meteor rain, and you never run out of meteors, despite it being now a cooldown skill thanks to the helmet. We get huge power boosts from the new Inferno and the 50% multiplier it gives. We actually now heavily go into Shattered Stars, because it's not just Meteor, it's Meteorites. The extra little ones that fall around it hurt. And they don't just hurt, they really hurt, because they get coupled with Armageddon, where they get a near 540% multiplicative more damage while Inferno is up, and Inferno will be permanently up. Now, I do need to point this out, because this keeps happening on builds for some reason this season. A small minority of people seem to look at the footage and go, well, that's only a pit 85, must be garbage. I have not even an ancestral amulet on. Like, I don't have 12 out of 12 masterworking. When I tell you that the build itself is incredibly solid mechanically, that's because it is. Just because I don't happen to have the gear to numerically pump it enough to show you a pit like 105, which it is capable of with perfect gear, doesn't change that, you know? And I realize 99% of you understand that, but it's always something to point out just to be safe rather than sorry. In any case, yes, it's fast, it is fun, it is just a flaming good time, and it really, really hurts. Just seeing that many meteors hit is delicious. And one thing I will say is it is better at killing bosses than a lot of our builds. It's actually killing bosses faster than the equivalent geared Lightning Spear, though Lightning Spear does scale better as you get better and better, more perfect gear. But as you're seeing on these tutorials, if what you care about is farming Torment for bosses, yeah, this is going to give you a reliable farming loop for that. So all in all, if you're a fan of Meteor and you've always wanted to play it, it quite literally has never been better or more powerful relative to the content that matters. And I do want to give a shout out to Lurkin, one hell of a sorcerer in his own right. Always chat with him about the state of the class, and he really went in on Meteorites to explore it during the PTR while I did other things, and saw that it was really really filled with potential. So without further ado, let's get into this. The meteoric rise of Meteor then starts with 2 points into any of your basic skills, just so we can move on. I do love that I always choose Firebolt, just so we never quite forget being trapped into burning builds for so many seasons, you know? Never let it happen again. Then we go over to Cause, where we don't really care about anything other than moving on to defensives, and we do that by filling out Elemental Dominance, as that does help our Meteor a little bit, and then Potent Warning to help your all resist needs. Over 2 defensives, 1 point into Flame Shield, just so we technically can have it, and then Teleport, which does have a spare point. I've put it here just to lower the cooldown, but this 1 point you can put literally anywhere you'd like. In any case, the usual Enhanced and Shimmering for damage reduction and go faster. The damage reduction is honestly really useful, and you do notice when it's not there. Then we put Teleport as our first enchantment slot. Mainly it's because there's nothing better. Like, it's nice to double teleport, it's always fun when you can on a Sorcerer build, and the extra shock skill is nice to have for many synergies, and you do get to go very fast, which is great with Meteor just blanketing behind you. Technically, you could put the Meteor in itself, which, yes, when you hit that tiny lucky hit and get the extra one, it's damage more, but it's not enough damage more to give up the pure ease of use and speed that Teleport does, and there are arguments to be made Teleport is more damage because of the synergies it helps with, so in any case, basically, Teleport. Then we get to Ice Armor, over to Enhanced and then Mystical. We don't spend mana, so we can't Shimmering anyway. That said, Ice Armor with only a 9-second cooldown, with how much cooldown reduction we have in this build, and then its duration, it is up most of the time, so this is a nice damage increase. Then we head over to our Conjurations, where we fill out Precision Magic. We do have some lucky hit effects, like Witch Powers and Orange Herald, though that said, these 3 points are indeed the least required outside of your spare teleport point, so you could fully fit it out if you like, but, you know, I like to leave it in Precision. Then we get Ice Blades, over to Enhanced and then Roaring. This becomes our second enchantment slot, and this Ice Blade cooldown reduction is one of the key engines for being able to spam Meteor once we've got a 3-second unique roll and lots of cooldown reduction. It just kind of powers the whole thing and is very needed. It's also why we want as much attack speed as possible to transfer it to the Ice Blades so they can do their thing even more efficiently. We don't need Mana Shield and Primordial Binding, of course, so we do get protection for the constant barrierage, and then we move on. We fill out Icy Veil, just so our Ice Armor lasts longer, so the damage lasts longer, and we don't have anywhere else to spend the points. Max out your Meteor, and then get Enhanced and Mages. The faster falling is very useful. Then we want full Inner Flames for the free damage. We will mostly be healthy because we're incredibly tanky, and then we want Devouring Blaze for the single biggest multiplicative increase we can get on the skill tree for pyromancy based builds. This is why it's so important on the amulet and why I wish I had more than just +3. In any case, we then go on to our ultimates, where we get the new triple kind of standard trifecta of they look like frost, but they power up every single build in Hoarfrost, Permafrost, and Icy Touch. We'll be freezing a lot with a rune and indeed our chance to freeze temper, so this all works out nicely. Get maximum elemental synergies because it's free damage and we have the spare points. Get the free cooldown reduction because that's always lovely. Fill out your Inferno to maximum so we get ourselves that extra little vulnerable factor. And then Prime Inferno and Supreme for that huge damage increase. We will permanently have an Inferno down in this build. A 9-second base cooldown is already just lovely, and Orange Herald powers it down even further. Then we go round to Soulfire, which we max out, and lastly then grab Enlightenment, as it is way better than Esu's Ferocity, at least once you've got a decent amount of gear. That makes up our skill tree. I will do gear next this time around, because this build is quite gear dependent and also quite not gear dependent. You only need 1 mythic unique, but you do require a Starfall Coronet that has the minimum 3-second roll, so it's easy in some ways, difficult in another, but I really don't want to let you know any later than I have to that there are some specific targets you need to meet before you think about meteoriting. Then we'll go into how to actually play it. In any case, for your aspects, you want specifically a staff, so we can double up on Shattered Stars to get our Meteorites base damage as high as possible and get them dealing, well, the full damage of the main Meteor too. Then on your Amulet, you want Armageddon, so we get that huge 540 multiplicative increase to the Meteorite damage during Inferno, as Inferno will be permanently active. Then we want just kind of the generic Sorcerer damage increases that our Storm Swell will have near permanent ice armor, so this is really, really lovely. And then your Shredding Blades for that huge increase in Vulnerable. These are just kind of our two best generic damage increases. On your legs then is where you want the Orange Herald to guarantee the constant Inferno, which we do need. Uniques-wise, we want the usual Tal Rashes, that big 75% multiplicative damage increase, the much-needed extra source of cooldown reduction, the non-fizz for enlightenment. I mean, I don't need to sell you Tal Rashes every single build guide, it's one of the best rings in the game. Then we get ourselves Starfall Coronet. You need this to play the build, it's the Meteor unique that lets it do what it does. The ranks to Meteor are lovely, the cooldown reduction is lovely, and the switching it to the cooldown is how it all functions. And again, you need to have a 3-second one. You could kind of play it a bit jankily at like up to 3.5-ish, but I really wouldn't recommend actually doing this until you get a minimum roll. It does feel so much better. Then we have ourselves Rakenov's Wake. They all resist elements, it makes everything really comfortable to hit those minimums of 70%, but the extra cooldown reduction is where it's at. If I take these off, my Meteor is a 1.69, nice, and if I put them back on, it's down to 1.38, and that is an appreciable decrease when we're already looking at such small numbers, especially for the Ice Blade's cooldown reduction. That said, in perfect gear, if I had even more cooldown reduction, if I triple hit cooldown reduction on my Amulet, if I hit it on the Starfall, if I triple hit it on my Tal Rashes, you don't need this extra help, and you can and should use some boots with ranks to Meteor and then concussive strikes. But that's only if, without Rakenov's Wake on, you can get your Meteor below, I would say, 1.5 seconds. If you can get 1.5 seconds or less, wear a ranks of Meteor boots. If you can't, put on Rakenov's Wake, and it lets you play this sooner with worse gear, and that's really nice and comfortable, but the choice is yours. Mythic unique then, you want your Shroud of False Death, that +1 all passives is delicious, the hell for the survivability, it's just a lovely, lovely mythic. If you don't have it, then put on your Raiment of the Infinite, we're teleporting a lot, and it will help you as you need it. For your affixes, on your staff, you want critical strike damage, health, and intelligence. On your amulet, you want intelligence, cooldown reduction, and devouring blaze, very specifically. Again, I really wish I had an ancestral version of this, but hey, at least I have this one. On your ring, you want critical strike chance, attack speed, and intelligence, though critical strike damage is also fine, health is fine. The main thing is critical strike chance, as the build does struggle to get it from the most common sources, like your Air of Perdition, like your Starless Skies, so we need all the help we can get with it, so critical strike chance definitely very important, and then the rest as needed. The same with your gloves, you want critical strike chance, though on your gloves specifically, even more important, is ranks to core skills. After crit chance and core skills, you want attack speed, critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, intelligence, or indeed health if you want to be a bit tankier. On your legs, you need armor, max life, and intelligence. For the gems and runes then, you want critical strike damage in your staff, and you want intelligence in your armor. The first pair of runes, we want your Yulthul, cast a skill with a cooldown, though technically this can be any of the common really good generators, and then we get the Mystical Frost Nova for that 50% multiplicative damage increase on what we're killing, and the lovely freeze activating all those bonuses. Then we have ourselves just raw critical strike chance. Again, you can use any of the common activators. This one is nice as it just immediately gives you all of the crit and it makes sure it's permanently there. As you can see, currently I am at 39% critical strike chance, and that will go up to about 70% when everything's firing in combat, which is quite nice. You just want this as high as you can. So, that is that. Obviously, the usual, make sure you've got your armor cap, and make sure you've got your all-res cap. You can help with that by using your soothing spices. Always having the extra 100 int on is very, very nice too, and I find that attack speed and lucky hit is the best elixir for this, though you're not going to go too far wrong with precision either. That's also really, really handy. Playing this then is fairly simple. We have the double teleport for double go fast, and that feels really smooth to play. You know the drill when it comes to that. Use it to get out of dangerous things, to progress through the pit, to leap onto groups of elites, and to just farm quicker. Use your ice blades on cooldown every time they come up. Use your ice armor on cooldown every time it comes up. Save your flame shield for when you absolutely need to be immune to things, but you can weave it in to help build your enlightenment stacks as well. Then Inferno. You want to use Inferno not necessarily every time it comes on cooldown, you just want to make sure that you have a Inferno constantly up. So make sure as soon as you see that snake's about to go down, you have another one going. In reality, you can get away with just pressing it every time it comes off cooldown. You've got enough attack speed, it doesn't really slow your meteoring, so it is, if you just want a hard and fast rule, yeah, just use it on cooldown. So, the actual meteor itself then, just hold the meteor. And as you can see, without me doing anything else, I do have a little bit of a gap between meteors, even with the 1.38 cooldown, but when I start pressing everything else and actually getting into it, you'll see that that rapidly changes, and I can pretty much just consistently cast it at my attack speed, occasionally actually going to 2 stacks, and now look at us go, we are struggling to even burn through all of our stacks of meteor, and that's where it's at. So now I will start adding an Inferno in, and as soon as you add Inferno in, you get those extra meteorites, you get that huge damage boost, and it's during Inferno you absolutely ruin things. If I switch to a boss training dummy, so you can see a health bar disintegrate, I mean, it is quite ridiculous. There we go, how it be. As I say, you will be doing quite hefty billions of damage with all of these meteors falling. For your witch power load up, you want thus Aura of Siphoning, just so we technically have an aura. The healing on it is nice too, but we just need an aura active so we can use aura specialization for that huge 35% critical strike damage increase. After that, we have Soul Harvest, which was a little bit bugged, but supposedly is going to get fixed. In any case, it's still really, really good, and is the strongest power if it's working properly, so this will be the power to use, so I have it here just for ease of understanding. Then we have Breath of the Coven, so we can get some much needed attack speed, as that's quite hard to come across in this build, and we are using a two-handed weapon. We really want to spam those meteors, and more attack speed is more Ice Blade attack speed, which is more cooldown reduction, and I found that this helps quite well. And we do have an Eldritch Psyche and Growth and Decay to get it to maximum stacks. After that, we have Hex of Flames, that is our Eldritch, and then for your unique is your Psyche, your Vengeful Spirit. I really should upgrade this, I would recommend you actually do, so you have more consistent uptime, but both of these are here to max stack Breath of the Coven. Occult Gems, you want yourself Friend of the Bog, so you get that 8% multiplicative primary core stat increase for that lovely extra intelligence. After that, if you want to be a little bit tankier, you can get Moonlight Ward. If you want to do a little bit more damage, then go with Duststone. For your third option, you want to have yourself Killing Wind for that extra 15% critical strike chance, because as I said, we want as much critical strike chance as we can get in this build. I just don't have it yet because, you know, ridiculous amounts of gem fragments. Tempering on your staff, you want to have ideally Pyromancy critical strike damage or Pyromancy attack speed. That said, normal critical strike damage and just fire damage, if you are going to brick, you can accept them, but chiefly either Pyro crit or Pyro attack speed. Then chance for Meteorites to deal double damage. After that, on your ring, again, Pyro crit or Pyro attack speed and Inferno cooldown reduction. On your amulet, yep, you guessed it, either Pyro crit, Pyro attack speed, or Inferno cooldown reduction. I ended up with fire damage here because it's bricked, which isn't the worst. It's better than something that doesn't actually help, but yeah, is a shame. On your gloves, you want, again, pyro crit, pyro attack speed. I've ended up with normal critical strike here, so I can use these gloves across multiple builds, but that is the aim, and then always chance to freeze to activate all of our frozen goodness. Then on your legs, you want percent armor and more chance to freeze. For what you want to be hitting with your Masterworking, any skill ranks like core ranks on your glove, any critical strike chance is really good, ranks to Devouring Blaze on your amulet, any given cooldown reduction around the place, and chance for Meteorites to deal double damage. Mercenaries, for your reinforcement, you either want Rahir for some extra tankiness, or you want the 10% attack speed from lovely Cannibal Barbarian. And then for your main one, you want Suvo in his usual forever formation to get that 25% multiplicative increased critical strike damage some of the time. This then leaves us with Paragon. We begin on your basic board, grab your Elementalist, grab your Resilience, and then up to the Glyph where we slot and activate Destruction and also get every single bit of spare decks around the place to power it up as much as possible. Getting Elemental Balance, and as I go through this, if you have the points to get all of the surrounding magic nodes, in fact across all 5 boards, get all of the damage increasing magic nodes. If you don't have as many points as me, then don't get ones that aren't required, like for example these two that don't lead anywhere. In any case, we then get studied and go up into our next board, which is your fundamental release. Arrange it so the glyph is close to the gate, and then head up and right, get your lightning cutter, and then slot and activate exploit. This is the third glyph that if you wanted, you could power up by getting all the decks around the place. That's what I'd do if I got more points than this, but it's not a priority. We also want to go get Elemental Balance. Then we're going to head up to Fundamental Release itself, acquire it, then head right to get Overdrive, and then continue right into Frigid Fate. Arranged like this with Oppressive in the bottom left, and then we want to head to this Intelligence via 4 Oppressive and the Cluster, and then go right to this Glyph slot where we have Elementalist. Activated automatically just from doing the rest of the pathing we need to, getting Elemental Favor, getting Weakness, and then going round to Frigid Fate. This extra stuff here is just because I have the points, so I put them in here. Honestly, it's not required, it's just somewhere to spend it alongside the extra DR from Guarded. Then we go over to the main board again in Fundamental Release, and we are going to head up. Grab yourself Kindling, and then grab yourself Suffused Resilience, and then head up to the gate, and the next board is going to be Icefall. Honestly, the order of these next 2 boards doesn't really matter. You're going to have enough stats to activate everything, chiefly thanks to Shroud of False Death. In any case, we then get Polar Rime, and then we head up past Frost all the way to Pyromaniac that is slotted and activated here. It's quite a nice glyph for your fire builds. Up and grab Cryomancy, mainly because the cold damage plays into Enlightenment, so it does actually help, and then we want to head left and round and get Icefall itself for that lovely boss killing increase. Then we want to go left from the exploit glyph on Fundamental Release, heading up to Electromagnetism, and then we continue into the final board, which as you might guess is going to be your Searing Heat board for that lovely 60% multiplicative increase, and indeed the critical strike chance. Then we initially go up to Explosive, over to Tactician, up to Flame Touched, and then down to Combustion, and then we continue on to the legendary node in Searing Heat. I've also grabbed this here, again, because it's just random points to spend. Honestly, as I sit here and do this, I likely will get rid of these points here, and then get rid of the extra lucky hit that we don't really need, and then do something like fill out all of the decks around something like Exploit to power that up, but again, we kind of get to the point in the Paragon board where you're gaining very little from the points that you're earning. In any case, that is your standard layout for Meteor. Which takes us to the end. A lovely, actually powerful, fun, fast, viable Meteor build that is a veritable swarm of them, and yeah, thank you Season 7. Like, we might not be the most powerful class, but I keep maintaining it. We are both healthier than ever and more fun than ever. Let me know what you guys think. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.